thanks for joining me, Joe and Martin. Great to see everybody here. I know that there are some other attendees that I can't see your faces, but I know that you guys are out there. So thanks for joining. To make it really short, I'm one of the kind of living and walking examples of globalization. Without going too long, I grew up in the 80s, you know, pretty red in the communist China, and saw the entire industrialization of the country. Both my parents are liberal professions and entrepreneurs, so I've kind of lived through that wave of industrialization and entrepreneurship from small to big scales. I've mostly, to kind of make it backward today, as Zhenni said, I'm part of Partech. I wear two hats. One hat is I'm with a 400 million Series A, Series B, what we call the venture fund. We invest across the globe, and Nordics is one of our most important regions that I personally have the fortune to kind of look after. Our portfolio companies in the Nordics, notably, you guys are not very far from them, is called Naked. It's a fast fashion company that's doing quite well. I know the company is also trying to work a lot on the sustainability part, as you know, as a player in the fashion side. We're also investors in Resolution Games, just to name another one in Sweden. But long story short, I'm also wearing a hat, and to those who are concerned and interested, I'm spending about 30 to 40% of my time to support our funds and portfolio companies and entrepreneurs for anything that is Asia. So I'm part of the lead that has led us to make about 20 investments in and counting in Asia. That's the only region we don't have a physical office yet, but we start to have really interesting tractions over there. But not only to make direct investment in the region, but also we understand that there are a portion of entrepreneurs start to be interested in either China or Southeast Asia, where I spent more than 10 years based out of Singapore. But you know, as you know, it's a 650 million region. Long story short, I feel like we probably have quite a bit of a subject to talk about. And to conclude that, I come, you know, educationally speaking, I come with an environmental science background. And previously I was a full-time agri-tech and a food tech investor based out of Singapore, but also investing in Greater China and East Asia. So really look forward to speak with you guys, learn about what many of the entrepreneurs present today are doing. And yeah, thanks again for having me, and look forward to discussions.
Yeah, so Liang, you joined the Partech partner back in 2019 in the summer. And it's a global investment firm, and you have offices, like you mentioned, basically worldwide. And your team invests between $200,000 to $50 million in all major sectors. So not all the founders here are familiar with the Partech partners. Would you please just give us a little bit quick introduction?
Yeah, sure, Zhenni. Actually, for the panelists, I would love to do a quick real-time. Who have heard about Partech before until today? Yeah, so thanks Sebastian, I see, and Katarina, yeah, Joe. We have actually been around for a while. We know from our funders that we're not the fund that is spending the most of the time kind of marketing and communicating ourselves. But as a matter of fact, Partech has been around for a long time. It traces back the history to 1982. So it's almost 40 years now that we're actually one of the earliest VC funds that were founded with European roots. The office traced back to San Francisco, because back then, and with all my respect, back then there was not really VC ecosystem here in Europe. So the office was mostly in San Francisco. And over time, we had a lot of LP supports from Europe because the founding partners roots back to Europe. So today, we manage about $2 billion, as Zhenni said, across a number of different funds. And we invest across all the stages from seed to venture to growth. We also invest in all continents except for Antarctica for obvious reasons. And we are doing about 50% in Europe. 50 to 60% Europe, and the rest of it spread quite evenly across US, Asia, and also Africa. As a matter of fact, Partech Africa Fund is actually probably the most active venture fund backing entrepreneurs in Africa. And as Zhenni said, we invest pretty much across all the sectors. Where one of the things that I would make more explicit is, most of the founders and investment team, we don't come from a biotech background, so we will leave that mostly to the biotech, and our professional colleagues in the biotech funds. But otherwise, we're pretty much full-fledged and sector agnostic.
Yo, you got a question?
Yeah, how do you find the right person within Partech? Because you're so wide, you have so many different offices and so many different ticket sizes. If you're an entrepreneur trying to figure out who to talk to.
Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, we're extremely collaborative, Joe. For example, just less than a month ago, I actually co-initiated investments with a partner in a seed fund, although I seed technically within the venture fund in Singapore and in Indonesia. We haven't announced it, so I unfortunately can't tell you much more about it. It's a big fund, but we all sit in the same room, literally, because the floor is open. Most of us, I would say, most of us are going to the office from time to time. So if you find anybody, grab the person from Partech, and he will find you answer. So now I'll be the person. So you can ask me. You can do anything. You can direct that to me. No, there's no problem.
Super.
Yeah, just go back to Yo's question that there's so many different funds under Partech's management, such as the Partech Entrepreneur Fund, International Ventures, and Growth Capitals. Can you just tell us a little bit the difference between each of the funds and their investment strategies? Yeah.
So from the very beginning, the fundamental thesis here is that when you do an investment at C stage, when the founders have very limited to present, and compared to a company at Series C stage where you're going to crunch a lot of numbers, there's very different ways of interacting with founders, and then there's also very different ways to bring value to the founders, and ultimately there's also very, very distinct manners to when it comes to decision making, when it comes to the investment decision making. And so we decided we better kind of leverage different skill sets from different colleagues. So that's why, as Zhenni said, we have Partech Entrepreneur, which is basically our seed fund, and is anywhere between 200K all the way to $1 million or $2 million. That's at C stage, so you have something to present, but obviously you are at your early days. Then you have Partech International, what we call Partech Venture Fund. So you invest at Series A, Series B stage. So that's when you have something much more advanced than C stage. You're not necessarily an international company or much more very international, but you're seeing early stage of a science of that you guys might actually start to grow really nicely, and then that's the time you want to bring in some international investor. And then at last you would have Partech Growth, which is when you reach to Series C, Series D, so the company is doing extremely well. Your growth might not be 100, 200% a year, but you need somebody, for example, our Partech Growth partners, they all were CEOs or general managers of multi-billion-dollar business. So that's the moment that you want to bring in a partner that's, that has muscular arms, metaphorically speaking, who actually knows how to pilot such a huge, animal, so to speak. So that's why we have three investment strategies in a way. And so you have three neighboring teams that are doing very different manners when it comes to engage with entrepreneurs. And lastly, you have Partech Africa, which, that is more geographically specific, but invest across all the stages. I hope this clarifies, Zhenni.
Any question from the funders? Cool. Okay, then I will continue. So, but will you please just walk us through how the venture fund team evaluate a startup? I think this is what everybody here is interested in knowing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. let me think of a way probably less boring for you guys, because I'm sure that everybody has read so much about startup and VCs, and many of you guys might have already read about venture deals. If you haven't, you know, as an entrepreneur, you should probably read about it. Just it presents really well, really nicely how, you know, how the VC actually think about the deals. I would suggest for that. So I would not get into those boring stuff. I will probably start by probably talking about one element that I kind of see quite recurring, and I leave Joe and, you know, and Martin maybe kind of compliment you if they disagree. But especially at early stage, and sometimes even at Series A stage, entrepreneurs and founders are mostly very passionate people, right? They found something that they really are, you know, they find very close to their heart. They want to change something, they want to build something. And so when you pitch to a VC, obviously you want to tell that story, which is very often an authentic story, right? A genuine story you want to tell. So here's the problem I found, here's the solution I found, and we're going to change the world, right? I'm obviously giving a lot of stereotypes, and not everybody is telling that story. One thing that I've recurrently find, not always, but a lot of founders that don't do enough work, is that there are actually a lot of other entrepreneurs who are actually trying to solve the problem as well. And very often not necessarily exactly the same way as you guys do. So basically what I'm saying is you have three stakeholders. One is yourself, right? Your startup, you are doing something that is very specific. You have the incumbents. If let's say you're building a fintech product, right? Or kind of new sustainable D2C brand that is, you know, much more green. And then you have the incumbents, or the, you know, the ones that some entrepreneurs try to describe as evil, or, you know, not doing enough for the environment and etc. In between, and here's the important part, and you know, at least for us, especially when you start to at seed and Series A stage, is in particularly important, is what homework you have done between the incumbents and yourself, in a sense that some people call it the competitive landscape and etc. I would not limit even to that. It's just, okay, here's the incumbents, here's the problem. And don't never present it as a magic button or silver bullet that you know, that finally the world has waited, that you guys have come and we're gonna save the world. Usually, more often than not, there are lots of other entrepreneurs, maybe less brilliant than you are, but maybe, you know, just as brilliant. They're also trying to solve the problem. So having an extremely exhaustive, I'm not saying that building a business, you should focus on your competitors, right? Once you start operating your business, my personal conviction that you should definitely focus on customers. You should focus on your product and service. You should build something that is amazing, right? That your customers talk about it. You're so obsessive about that. But when you pitch the VCs, when you actually take a step back out of your operational days and think about your business and really think about your value, in like a genuine value that you are trying to build with the company. Now, at that moment, it's important that you get a really good understanding of the landscape. Who are the players? How exactly you are not reinventing another wheel, right? Sometimes it's fine. Sometimes you are just reinventing another wheel. That's fine, because sometimes in some sectors we need a lot of new reinvented wheels, and that's fine. But sometimes maybe not. So it's important to be able to articulate that. I just ranted quite long about this point, but I you guys can tell that for us it's quite important. So, and I see Joy is smiling on that.
You have been laughing. Please go ahead.
I would also to follow up on what happens on the inside. I think it's a super good point, but what happens on the inside when you meet a startup, you see one of the slides would be some kind of competitor matrix or list, or this is how we see ourselves around compared to the world. You get that pitch, you look through it, and you might come further in the investment process. What happens on the inside within a VC fund? What would you do? What would you trust that list?
Yeah, that's a super good point. I mean, Joe, you guys probably have your own approaches, and we usually take a very like in all honesty, we're usually very skeptical of that matrix. You guys probably are very familiar with those kind of matrix. Here's the x axis, here's the y axis, and here are the other players, and here's us, right, with a star on it. And for every single company, you can probably find 2 parameters that is advantageous to you guys, and so you're going to be put there. So Joe, to answer your question, that it's a very dangerous way to kind of just take it as it is. We, in many cases, so to answer Joe's question, there's 2 things that from at least at Partech we do. So we do a lot of homework ourselves. There's some primary research that we do, you know, as most VCs do. We have a lot of subscriptions on all kinds of research tools that we leverage on all the people's, you know, understanding of the certain industry. And then, fortunately, we have, you know, we have internal expertise as well. So we have partners who have invested and sold already on some neobank and fintech. We have partners who have invested and maybe, you know, build a very important consumer brand company. We also have a partner. I take an example for Holman, for example, which is leading our you know, tech seed fund. And Holman is technically and literally a rocket scientist, right? So you definitely have the internal expertise you want to leverage on. We have a lot of long chats about and deep dives on those topics, and then you probably would need to rely on a lot of external experts. So you guys might realize, especially for some of the entrepreneurs in the room, that if you start to fundraising, then maybe sometimes they ask you guys for ref calls with some of your customers and etc. So we definitely do a lot of calls. So a lot of desk work and a lot of phone calls. So it's extremely bipolar. You know, like for us internally, how do you remain consistent? Like sometimes it's an extremely extrovert work. We do extremely a good number of calls, and then there's a lot of desk work that we try to understand the company's industry as well. I want to give I would say a caveat when it comes to expert ref calls. You might hear some of VCs say, you know, let's say if you guys are doing an insurtech company, some of VCs might ask you like, so who's the insurance guy, right? In the funders. We always take this as a pinch of salt, right? So because you guys are building, by definition, you're entrepreneurs and you are trailblazers and you guys are breaking things and changing things. Yes, we do a lot of calls with so-called experts, and obviously they give us a lot of perspectives. And you guys probably should do that as well, right? If you're doing insurtech company, you should probably speak with some insurance experts. At the same time, a lot of times they're actually wrong, right? Because you guys are doing something different, and they have a different opinion precisely because they're working with the incumbents. So I stop here for that, but I hope you're satisfied with my answer.
Vincent, you have a question? Yes,
thank you. Thanks, Leon, for the nice information, useful information. I have a question. Quite often we talk about the team. You know, you mentioned about the founders, you mentioned about the idea and so on. And as a founder, I understand the importance to have the right team. I'm just curious about what do you look for the team outside the founders? With something specific that it's good to highlight or communicate to you once we have the opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. To be honest, we can go for like maybe entire day just talk about that particular subject, because for me personally, and I think different investors have very different opinions. So what I'm saying is does not represent Partech. It's just my personal opinion, and that I'm standing by with, is that I'm genuinely thinking, entrepreneurs and the team is the most important elements in the entrepreneurial journey. You can pivot, you can have an amazing idea, but if the team is either not a good fit for the project, or if the team for some reason is actually, not VC kind of growth style startup kind of compatible in that sense, then there's a big issue. I explain what I'm saying here is there's nothing wrong of building a nice and sweet and small business and running nicely in a small city. I think there's a lot of overhype about building the next $1 billion businesses. As a matter of fact, very often, if you have a business that is profitable and is growing very nicely organically, and if you, for whatever reason, you don't think you are the one that's going to be, you are not going to be your happiest or your best states, for reasons of your family or your personal aspiration, then you might not even want to take VC money. First of all, VC money is very expensive, right? Your company is going to be worth more in 10 years. And now you're going to give 10, 20, even 30% sometimes to your VC for relatively not a lot of money, right? For 5 million, 10, 20 million euros. So I think to take a step back, you need to think about whether the team is actually needs VC money, depends on the project you're working on. But to answer your question, Vincent, the thing we're looking at is that we don't forget that we are actually venture capitalists. So we're trying to back entrepreneurs that are genuinely thinking to tackle some of the most pressing and important problems that are scalable, right? And that actually needs VC money, right? That's kind of what we do, because otherwise we're just going to open the bank and start loaning money, right? That's a whole nother business. So I think the ambition level of the entrepreneur can't be faked. I think it's very genuine, and over time, over the course, we can tell. And you guys, there's no reason to fake it. You just need to be authentic about it. That's kind of the basic of it, right? So what kind of business are you trying to build? And then kind of reversely, you need to look for the most compatible investor for you guys. Because some of the VCs have a fund model so that they can probably only invest in companies that are going to be, on track to 500 million to $1 billion or even more. And then you have smaller VC and just tech investors who are completely fine with smaller returns just because they have different priorities and different objectives. And to complete your question, Vincent, I think if I were to summarize a few things is one of the key elements in entrepreneurs is probably what I call, and surprisingly, as a Chinese guy, what I call the yin and yang of a founder. And sorry for my Asian language here, is that is the founder capable of, at the same time, for me, the yang would be the expansion part, right? Like, is the founder able to go out and be quite aggressive in a positive term, think about who are all the stakeholders and players out there that you guys can work with, and you are able to just close it in an extremely solid way. I'll give you guys one example. How many of you have heard about So Rare? It's an NFT related to software, to football company, to football clubs. So basically, they're issuing this NFT so that fans of football clubs can buy crypto-based virtual collectible cards of football stars. And this is another investment that I've led. Is one of our newest partner, Boris, who has led at Partech, and we're all very proud of this investment, and we're especially proud of the achievement the guys have done. And I give you one example on here is the founder, when the company was 12 people, right? They are still 12 people as we speak. They're doing, multi-million weekly. They were just invested by Benchmark of $50 million at a multi-hundred million round. And the company is barely 2-3 years old. The founder was able to close deals with tens of football clubs, right? I'm talking about like real football clubs. So that's the young part of me. So not fearing of failing and just go out and smash it, right? Like a Hulk, for the lack of better analogy. And the yin part is your internal works, right? Are you also a founder? Not necessarily always by yourself, because you might be complemented by your COO or another co-founder, but in general, within the team, do you have someone that, hold the threads of the numbers? Do you know what's going on within the company, right? How, can you actually come down to earth and look at the numbers and and do the basic math and focus on the product and etc. Vincent, so that's the answer to your question.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Sebastian, you have a question.
Hi. Yeah, Leon, I was wondering nowadays, so how many roughly deals or percentage of deals are you doing through solely your own research? So not through leads or companies approaching you, but really you having research an area and yeah, find out some diamonds.
Yeah, so it depends on the funds, right? In all honesty, it depends on the funds you have. And I would say the later the stage you are, the fewer companies there are, right? As you might imagine, and then the more possible that you can do basically research and actually outgoing. As a matter of fact, most, I would say, at venture level, venture and growth, so from Series A, Series B level today, I give you the numbers of my team, for example. All deals that we're processing today, you would probably have like 1/4 of the deals entrepreneurs we're speaking to are inbound, and 3/4 of them are mostly reached out by ourselves, right? We reach out to the founders or that were introduced by our investor friend, but we do a lot of proactive outreach to the founders. At seed stage, in all honesty, you have a lot of inbound just because of the sheer volume of the companies, and it's very hard to distinguish the good entrepreneurs to the kind of less mature projects just by reading the deck. So my seed and colleagues probably take many more calls than we do, just in the nature of the game.
Yeah, Martin, a question.
Hi, Leon. Nice to meet you. Ni hao. My name is Martin. I'm from your Speech Factory.
Hi.
I was wondering how you look at valuation based on traction, because we have been talking about the competitive landscape and the team and maybe technology. I'm thinking like one startup is building a bicycle, another one is building a spaceship to sell it to NASA. And still investors ask, oh, do you have traction yet? How much, what's your revenue? And then your value is based on that. Do you have any experience in this field, Leon? And what's Partech's take? How do you value your investments?
Yeah, I understand. I can totally tell that Martin there's a lot of discussions around this, and if you guys have actually, and Martin, just to divert a little bit from your question, is if you guys have looked at the Series A median increase, there's recent analysis coming out of the information. It's a great value-based tech media. And they have seen that the median of Series A valuation has went from, let's say, 15 or 20 million 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago to recently you have basically arrived at 30 to 40 to 50 million at a Series A level, right? So there's definitely a lot of inflation, for the lack of a better word. I'm not sure whether I can call it inflation. But Martin, there's a lot of science. You can write a book about the 20 methods to calculate the valuation of a company, but fundamentally for a company at early stage, all these math are a little bit fortune telling, right? So it's I'm not saying there's no logic behind it, but very often you also have a lot of kind of market force behind it, in the sense that you definitely have a law of supply and demand coming into the picture. So maybe to argue in favor of the founders, and I probably as VC I probably shouldn't be doing that, but in the spirit of transparency, I think number one, if you're building something that is you tremendously believe that you have value in, you should definitely defend yourself, right? With your own benchmark and the methodologies that I will not bore you guys with. There's so many different ways of looking at it, and you think you can justify a certain valuation. You should definitely, in all means defend it, and even at sometimes negotiate, right? You can definitely negotiate with the different investors and some investors because the better fit, or they understand you guys better, the fundamental value of your company. Maybe they're willing to pay a slightly higher price. Now, that being said, and for Joe and Martin, for other VCs in the room, we all know that nothing is purely positive, in a sense that if you raise a seed round at a very high valuation, I'm taking the risk of explaining the obvious here. But if you take a very high valuation at a very early stage of your company, the potential harm could be quite tremendous, in a sense that for your next round and the future round of investors, unless all this craze of valuation will continue, you might run a risk of not being able to raise, or at least at a proper valuation. Because if your traction and your promise, if it is not being delivered or being delivered slower than you have promised, then you might also have a down round, right? In a sense, you might have a depreciation in your valuation, and everybody will be hurt, and you might also run some reputation risks as well for your company. So I would suggest that, number one, defend your interests at all, for sure, for all the good justified reasons, but also be careful about the valuation craze that is going on.
Yeah.
Would you like to add on? Yes, please.
I would add to that, saying a good way is to try to figure out what data you have online right now. So one good data point is like 0.9. Usually do like a SaaS napkin if you're in the SaaS business, and try to find some comparables to what you do, which is a good starting point. So I think that is one way to look at it as well, to have to get some more data before you go out as well. And it's a market, so it's a free market. That means depends on supply and demand as well, and your traction.
Absolutely, Joe. It's a super good point.
Cool. Yes, the next question is that what are some of the common mistakes that you have seen founders who are trying to raise a Series A? Can you elaborate that with some examples?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. What are some of the mistakes? One of the mistakes, if I can call it a mistake, is so there's two things in what I'm going to say. Is number one, you definitely have a lot of VCs telling you that you should always be raising, in a sense that you might going to start burning more as you progress, right? Because you want to progress faster, so you're going to start deploying and acquiring more, onboarding more sales and or engineers, and you're going to start spend more money. And so you want to be in a good position to raise and start raising the moment you actually need the money, right? Or the moment the board decides you may want to raise at the next quarter. And you don't want to put yourself in a position that you need to start compiling that list of investor to reach out to. That's feasible, but the better way of doing that is, yes, you might want to set up some percentage of your time and getting to know some of the investors and getting to know their portfolio companies, and so that they know you, and the moment you want to raise, you want to close it fast. And so the caveat to this, there's a slight distinction to make in what I'm saying is, the mistake that I'm seeing with some of the founders is they're doing the opposite, is that they don't do the preparation kind of curation part, and then they extend the actual raise very long, right? So they're going to tell you, I'm start raising, I don't know, in 1st of January, and I want to close the round by end of March, right? And once again, as your board member might tell you, right? And it's not a good reason for us investor to make the decision, but so far there's a lot of data pointing that the VCs make a lot of decisions, unfortunately, on FOMO, in a sense that you want to be able to create a round dynamic, right? You want to be able to be very ready and have all your materials and documents and everything that is ready. And that's why you need also to start to speaking with some of the VC folks at the earlier stage to know what kind of stuff they want to see. And that's how you kind of inform yourself and kind of perfectionize and enrich your data tracking and so forth. The moment you want to start the raise, you should probably inform everybody that you're going to start raising. And because you have all the data ready, you probably will be able to drive the process in a much faster way, right? Instead, I've seen a few entrepreneurs who don't have all the data ready, who start raising, who start calling some of the VCs occasionally 1 week or another, and the whole process drags for 2 or 3 months. And the whole process is bad for the entrepreneur, and also, it's dragging a long time for the VC as well. And it's, ultimately, it's not great for anyone. I would say that's probably, yes.
Yeah, we are running out a little bit of time here. Thomas, you have a question.
Yes, I'll try to be quick. I'm interested in your role as an active investor. Do you have a few examples of what you have helped your portfolio companies achieve, except from the monetary side?
Yeah. So Thomas, this is a spot on question, because we actually have a dedicated team, a full-time team at Partech to do that. So as we speak, I have my colleagues, Tanguy and Louis and all these guys, they are doing a lot of work to map out what are the potential collaborators and partners for some of the folks, and they will make the introduction, etc. But in general, you have 3 things, as you pointed out. There's the financial part, which is fundraising, find ways to exit, etc. And then you have hiring, and then you have business development. Broadly speaking, you have 3 of that, and actually we have teams that are dedicated for 3 of this. We also have a dedicated digital platform. So as the portfolio company of Partech, you are able to log in and post, for example, all the hirings that are going on in your company, and it's logged and it's presented in real time on the Partech platform, and then we distribute, and we do that in a very regular basis. But more specifically, if I give you one example, it's probably more iconic, is how an international VC brings value to local entrepreneurs. We had a travel company, and obviously that was pre-COVID, and now they're on holidays, as you guys know. There's not much travel business that is happening, and although we remain extremely positive for the company, because I think people are gonna go crazy traveling with all the sustainability in mind, but we believe the folks are going to restart traveling once we leave COVID behind. But long story short, they spend a lot of time trying to reach a Shanghai-based investment group that are focused on travel. And through our network, they spent probably 6 months just trying to reach out, right? And obviously they didn't think about the kind of network that Partech have. And it took us probably 2 weeks to reach to the managing director of that business in Europe. And so we bridged them, and they had a meeting in London, maybe 3 weeks later. This is just one example. I can give you another example of that is public information. L'Oreal is one of our LPs, and they are very active in innovation, partnership with startups, and investing in startups. And because we're on a monthly touch base with most of our LPs and and corporate partners, we know what they're looking at. And for example, we put them in touch with a Germany-based market research company, probably AI-based, with their digital innovation team. And I can't tell you more about the whole discussion, but it takes a lot of time for entrepreneurs to open doors. I think I'm not saying only Partech is doing that, but definitely you should, when you speak with, and the VCs, once again, is being repeated by everybody. Money is the very basic of what VCs can bring. It's everything else that you need to check.
Yeah, Daniel, I saw that you raised your hand. Do you have a question?
I had one before. Let's see if I still remember it yet. What's your kind of top do's and don'ts for startups being in the process of raising capital?
Okay, I'd be fast. So do's.
Yeah.
Do your homework, as I said, right? Super strong homework. You know what you're doing. You know what the landscape looks like, and be extremely rigorous in the way that you collect your data and present your deck and so forth. You need to have that rigor in it. And then 3, be fast. I would say when you have all the first 2 parts, you need to be fast in the process as third one. And the don'ts is probably just the opposite of that.
Okay.
I'm taking late to answer that.
And what does fast mean? Is it a week, a month, 2 months, or what is fast?
The case is, we have a, some of our companies are at unicorn stage, so they have a lot of data to dive into. Depends on the stage you are. At C stage, if needed, I think we can move extremely fast.
Just one last question for Prudence.
Yes, thank you so much, Leon. My question is, what is your timeline when it comes to investing from initial contacts to full capitalization?
I would say, actually, if I take a step back on this, is by the time the money goes into your bank, between the term sheet being signed and the money going into your bank, there's kind of another round of DD by the tax and legal stuff that you guys need to expect. So if you have 30 days of cash left, then you're in a bad place, right? So the money is not going to be wired. It's not as an angel investor. So when you speak with VCs, for the better, for the worse, they have regulations to comply with, right? So even when you sign the term sheet, by the time you have the money in the bank, at least I would say a month, right? And Joy might concur or disagree on that, but I would say to be safe, you should at least prepare for a month before the money is in the bank. And prior to that, it really depends. It can be a week, if everything moves so fast. It can be slightly longer if you guys are a Series A, Series B, or later stage. Then the folks might need to, even schedule a meeting to come to meet you guys in person. You can take up to 2 to 3 weeks.
It depends a bit on the fund as well, depending on how you handle within the VC fund, how you handle money. But usually VC funds would draw money from their investors to be able to send the money to the startup. So that has a time delay as well, depending on the size of the investments and how much money that are available within the fund at that point. So there is that's going to delay the money wires as well on the startup side. So it's good to have a good buffer in time for sure.
Thank you.
Cool, guys. I would think we will not take a break. We'll move directly straight to the startup pitching. And I see that we have Mitchell from HP Tech Venture also in the audience. Just want to say hi to all the investors out there. Stay tuned to our founders pitches. So we will start in 1 minute with Daniel from Position Green. That you can start sharing your screen right away, and right after your presentation, please just close the sharing. Yeah, usually we would take a break, but we'll skip this time. So hope everybody has your coffee ready. Yeah, Daniel, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Do you see my screen now, or?
Yes, perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
So yes, it will be a 5 minutes presentation, and we'll leave 5 minutes for a question and answers. We'll give the question to Leon, but if any other founders have questions, you can go ahead and ask as well, if we have enough time.
Okay.
So yes, Daniel, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Gadd, and I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Precision Green. And I'm here to tell you about how we make corporate sustainability measurable, structured, and data-driven. We believe that access to accurate and traceable data allows companies to take action and make progress towards a more sustainable world. And the pressure on companies rises. And the global challenges we all face is not simple. It's not simple at all, actually. There are many factors behind the pressure, and we believe that it's the companies that take the global challenges seriously who will be the winners in the long run. But even though more and more companies say that they should be sustainable, and many have really good ambitions, they often lack how to structure and how to measure their sustainability. And why is that? It's because it's a really broad scope to handle. It's carbon emission, diversity, the social responsibility, waste fractions, policies, transports, chemicals, business trips, and so forth. The holistic view is actually often missing, and the reporting is often really lame as well. And the employees who have the task to handle the sustainability reporting, they often feel like the person in this picture. It's self-built Excel sheets and Word forms are sent around the organization. Emission factors are Googled, and no one really knows that the data collected and managed is correct. And we believe that in the same way that a company must handle its financial data today, it's only a matter of time before companies will need to have the same control and accuracy over their sustainability data. And that's the problem we will solve. Precision Green is a data-driven platform that helps companies manage their corporate sustainability, collecting all relevant sustainability data in one place in order to manage, analyze, calculate, and report it. So how does it work? The platform can collect data within the entire ESG scope and within an organization, from suppliers or from portfolio companies as well, actually. All data can be collected both manually or automatically from different data sources. In Precision Green, our customers have total overview, what they measure and where they're measuring it. They have full transparency and all the data is traceable. Our clients can visualize the data, analyze it, they can get the CO2 footprint, and they can easily report it to different stakeholders. And what makes Precision Green unique is that we have both built-in sustainability standards and best practices combined with a very easy and fast way to tailor each customer's unique scope. And this has been a formula for success for us since companies often need to follow standards at the same time as each company's sustainability scope really differs. Today, our platform is used by over 130 customers in 5 countries. We have thousands of users on the platform and thousands of suppliers as well around the globe. The market is massive. There's over 250,000 companies within the European Union with more than 50 employees, which is our kind of wider target group. So how do we make money? As a SaaS company, we have license fees, which we live on. And last year, we passed 1 million euro in annual recurring revenues. We have low churn. Our net retention rate is high. And now we focus on our next milestone, which is 10 million euro in ARR. But in order to succeed, our team is the most important factor, and we have a fantastic team. We're currently 28 amazing colleagues with enormous drive, and we are all dedicated to build the best platform for corporate sustainability and really trying to be a positive force in the transformation to a sustainable business environment at the same time. And finally, our funding plan. We have until now been funded by the founders and a couple of angel investors, but we're planning for a phase of scale up and will hence look into raise capital. And we would like to partner up with investors who understand the SaaS business as well how to scale in a fast and sustainable way. So feel free to get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I will give the question to Liang.
Thanks, Daniel. It's always great to see founders focusing on sustainability, and I think we need more entrepreneurs in sustainability more than than ever. So and we don't have enough of them. So for those who are listening, please do that. And Daniel, I just want to ask you one question: is what analysis do you do when it comes to understanding why some of the clients are signing up and why some are not, so that you can optimize your not only your products but also your sales process and your the clients that you decide to address?
I mean, most of our clients coming from doing this in Excel, actually. They're trying to send around different Excel sheets and Word templates to collect this data, or building some kind of made up SharePoint solutions. So that's where they're coming from. And why they don't sign up with us is because we will wait another year. It's not that important at the moment. And the buyers is currently the sustainability directors of the companies. And I mean, it's kind of a new market, and they don't have a budget yet, some of them. So that's the ones that don't sign up. And the ones that sign up feels, this is amazing. Full transparency. We collect all the data in one place. You can report it easily. We can get our CO2 emissions. Our auditors can access the platform. So I mean, I'm coming from my background is from Deloitte. So we have kind of that perspective. The same way as you work with financial data, traceable, is tracked. I mean, almost like bookkeeping. We have the focus on sustainability data as well. So the ones our clients really like the structure, traceability, and they save a lot of time.
Thank you for the answer, Daniel. Martin, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was going to ask a little bit about the churn and how you see that. What's the stickiness factor of committed user for you? And do you have any feedback in terms of customer surveys, why they stick with the solution?
Great question. We have really low churn. Until last year, we didn't have any churn at all, but the pandemic and stuff like that has made us churned actually 4 clients. So not that much. And I mean, we're really trying to build stickiness, and we can connect the platform to our clients' internal systems, like the HR system, ERP system, maybe they have some kind of waste management, water and so forth. And in that case, we really build stickiness. And then we also are working close with other system and startups. For example, Metri, which is a tool for real estate companies to gather all their electricity consumption in one place. We have an integration with them. So our real estate clients that use Metri and use us, we can just import the electricity consumption straight to us. And we're working with other partners like that. So we're trying to be like the platform for all sustainability data on an aggregated level in regards to reporting. Then our clients can work with, I mean, down in the verticals on wage management, energy management, HR management. That's fine. So that's something we're really trying to build stickiness around.
Thank you for the answer. Remi, probably you have a question as well because you're in a similar sector.
Yeah, I was thinking, what challenges are you facing at the moment? What would you describe them as rolling out, approaching companies?
The biggest challenge is how to like really scale it in the best possible way. Should we continue to focus on Sweden, the Nordics, or just jump out within Europe or the world straight away? We already have clients in Denmark, Norway, Germany, and without being present there at all. So that's probably like the biggest challenge, how to do this the best way, I would say. And then, yeah, that's my short answer.
Great, right, thanks.
Yes, we're very on time, and we'll move on to the next founder, Remi. So Daniel, would you please? Yes, I'm sure. Yes, excellent. And Remi, you can start.
Yep, you can see the screen now, right? Or?
Yes, perfect.
All right, my name is Remi Loren. I'm one of the founders of Ekolution, and we are a green tech, build tech company focusing on sustainable building technologies and challenging a very conservative sector at the moment. But we believe that this is the future of how we will build and live in our houses and in our buildings. So I'm going to take you through some of the challenges we are facing and the solutions that we provide for our society. Of course, we all are aware of the climate change that is going on, and the time is really now. We need to make some part of the change in this industry, which is one of the largest climate, let's say, impactors of climate change worldwide. If cement were a country, they would be probably the 4th highest in the whole world, emitting enormous amounts of pollution all around the world. In the post-pandemic, post-corona evidence, we spend 95% indoors, and we are experiencing people with diseases and sicknesses and other health problems from emitting materials inside. We have the energy problem and the consumption of large energy in the construction sector. So those are problems that we are targeting, and this is the team that we are building our pillars on. It's me, myself, Remi, that comes from sales and marketing, and I have my 2 colleagues, Naib and Henrik, which are from the construction sector, engineers, and working with a lot of our products, developing new system, working with the IP strategy to find good products to launch to the construction industry. And our mission is to provide society with these sustainable, healthy, bio-based materials, which are made of natural, renewable resources. So we are targeting the problems with 3 goals. You need to have goals when you're targeting and we want to change something. So we are targeting good health and well-being, infrastructure, and climate action. And this is our main products. We're working with hemp fiber and hemp and lime, 2 utterly extremely sustainable insulation materials from the plant of hemp, which is a renewable plant from the agricultural sector, which can be grown in under 100 days, which binds 22 tons of carbon per acre. That means that we can create enormous lungs for the earth if we start growing this renewable resource and putting it into our houses instead of synthetic or petroleum-based materials that we are using today. So what we have launched in Ekolution is the Ekolution hemp fiber insulation here in Sweden. So it's the first fiber insulation in the Scandinavian market, which has been approved by Byggvarubedömning with an excellent result. And these we are incorporating into the large building structures for building companies, real estate companies. All the possibilities are there to provide them with CO2 negative building systems. So this material is a fantastic way, 100% renewable, natural, and also carbon negative, which you cannot highlight enough in this phase. So we got the product certified. It's ready for the market. We are ready for a distribution into the retail sectors and the home improvement stores. We signed one agreement last week with one of the major retailers here in Sweden to provide the product. And here you can see our integrated business model, because we take this fantastic material and incorporate it into different structure, different systems, prefabricated systems to construct houses, schools, villas, and also our latest launch, which is the tiny house that Ekolution is launching in 2 weeks, actually. So here is where we are making our impact in the construction sector. Moving on, you can see the impact here. If you are using our materials in terms of conventional glass fiber or mineral wool materials, a normal villa would bind 7,000 kilos of carbon dioxide. And if you have a large scale in office building, high rising in urban areas, you bind almost 500,000 tons of carbon dioxide, which is fantastic numbers as well. We are working very closely with some of our patent lawyers and a strong team behind that to gain and to keep our competitive advantage. This we are doing with developing systems, wall structures, roof structures, floor structures that are unique for our company and has been part of our R&D for the last 8 to 10 years, actually. So here we believe to have a clear competitive advantage. We've been launching our products and the revenue forecast and the pipeline that this is based on has been very positive. We are talking with all the major real estate companies at the moment in Sweden, all the big building companies at the moment, the architectural firms. So we have a high traction for our materials at the moment. So we are coming into a disruptive and disturbing an industry which has been very conservative, using petrochemical materials, fossil materials for very long times, and now we're introducing bio-based, sustainable, renewable materials in a circular economy for the health of our homes, but also for our planet. And with the new EU taxonomy that is coming at the moment, we can see that real estate developers are gaining competitive advantage when choosing material like ours, so they can get interest rate reductions, working with green financing, and meeting the targets that it's set up for most of our companies around the globe. So that's a little bit what I had today, and our vision to change the way we live and work, and build in the next coming years. Here is one example. If I have more time, I can show you some of our projects. This is a villa that we made here in Sweden, with a clear impact of 10,000 kilos of carbon dioxide. This is another nature villa made in southern parts of Sweden. More coming up, so you guys stay tuned for our new concept and developing the future of housing.
Yeah, thank you, Remi. Leon.
Thanks, Remi. This is wonderful, and obviously you can tell this takes a lot of work and accumulations of work over the years. So kudos and congrats to that.
Thank you.
Maybe just one question that you didn't talk about, the one key that from our view to kind of move to the mass deployment of successful materials or alternatives to current solutions is what what the Bill Gates actually called the green premium, right? So what are the economics today of your materials compared to the mainstream? How much % is that premium today, and what's your intention of moving that to be price competitive so that you can really move to to the wide deployment?
That's a good question. It's always challenging launching something new, something sustainable, something eco, which goes into the premium subjects. So what we see today, the markup, the premium percentage that you ask for, Leon, is about 50%, sometimes 60 at least, but the return on investment can be calculated in energy savings, because the bio-based material, they store a lot of heat as well and don't let it out so fast as other materials. So the ROI calculus of a building creates very strong cash impact from the beginning. For a long-term strategy, that would be to vertically integrate our supply chain or our value chain, to source the materials locally, to eliminate on transport, to invest in facilities and invest in machinery that could press down the prices. The major players at the market today have enormous facilities producing stone wool, glass fiber wool insulation, emitting enormous amount of energy and carbon dioxide, but we are talking about facilities of several hundred million. So they are investments in terms of a new process driven and hardware driven strategy is needed, and that is the long-term strategy to change the curve and start going down with price and making it more available. It's an important point, and that we cannot do alone, so we have to do it with partners, and at this moment we cannot position ourselves so broad in the whole value chain, let's say like that. We've been focusing very much on getting the products out, creating market, creating traction, getting them certified. Sweden is probably one of the toughest climates to launch new innovative bio-based products due to the fact that we have very strong regulations, and when it comes to construction, very much needed for documentations, emission tests, and so on and so on. So it's a good place to start this journey, I believe, as well. But as you know, the construction industry is also very conservative, and it takes time convincing. But we are experiencing very positive dialogues at the moment, and I think governments and public housing companies and municipalities are also at the forefront, enabling us to enter into discussions, entering to public tenders, and such fields, I would say.
Yes, probably Daniel, you might have a question because you're also working. Daniel.
Yeah, sorry. I couldn't hear you. If I had a question?
Yes.
Okay. What's your biggest challenge, Remi? I returned that one.
Boom. That's a good one. The challenge, I would say, is of course, there, as I said in the end of my last sentence, is a very conservative industry, and creating knowledge, creating awareness about these materials all day long, let's say like that, because when we are entering into dialogues, some of the stakeholders and decision makers see the material for the first time ever. No matter what, if they have a PhD degree from a technical high school or from a technical university or wherever, bio-based materials is something that they are not used to. If you go to the scholar books and read about how we build our houses 30 years ago, everybody would say, just wrap them in plastic as tight as you can and make them energy efficient. That has now created a lot of troubles with mold, indoor climate, etc., etc. So it's a whole change of mindset how we are building our structures today. Our system is an open system, which allows air to flow freely, thus keeping it more energy efficient. So it's very technical, I would say, as well, to convince the stakeholders and convince the building companies, the architects. But I see a very positive collectiveness awakening in the construction industry to reach the goal together. So
thank you, Remi. Yes, just so you guys know that Larsson, he cannot join the entire session. That's why he left. But yeah, let's move on to Katarina and Thomas.
Yes, thank you. I hope everyone can see my screen now. We are Word Diagnostics, and I'm here today with my partner and colleague, Katarina Kjell, who is a clinical psychologist and one of 3 co-founders. And we are becoming the new standard for identifying mental illness. We're a young company, but we're based on over 10 years of research from Lund University in Sweden.
According to the World Health Organization, depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men suffer from depression at some point in their lifetime, and the societal costs are huge. Mental health specialists work side by side with medical doctors. For medical doctors, the tools are essential for their work. They use fMRI to examine brain functionality, blood tests to examine the immune system, and so on. These tools are well implemented and a given part in standardized daily practices for the clinic, the doctors, and the patient. Mental health specialists, on the other hand, are lagging behind. They often rely on the conversation as the only tool to identify, diagnose, and follow up the treatment progression. And this results in 2 problems. 1, the agreement between the mental health specialists are low. The research shows that even experienced clinicians interpret the same systems as different diagnoses. There is no efficient way to evaluate the effectiveness of care. Today, it's up to the clinician to decide the quality of treatment. We have an AI that identifies, diagnoses, and measures the effectiveness of care. Our AI is developed by founders from Lund University, and today we identify 50% of undetected diagnoses. For the stakeholders who have these benefits, for the patients, by focusing on the patient's own story, they're using their words, we allow for patient-centered care. And for the caregivers, we provide a strong decision support for diagnosis and treatment progression. And for leadership and for leaders and decision makers, we provide insights to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of care.
We aim for a European market, which we value today to about 450 million euros, and that's only based on the number of psychologists in this area. We have already identified interest coming from other stakeholders and possible customers. In this area, 40% of the population are already affected of mental illness. Looking at the competition, digitization of healthcare is well on its way, and there are many actors providing digital solutions to healthcare. In Sweden, we have these 5 actors named here. But looking at the other parts of delivery that we can offer, analysis and measuring change over time, we only have identified one actor, which is US Clarigent Health, who do similar activities as us, but based on video and sound recordings. So in digitizing, efficiency is the main benefit, where in analysis and measuring change, we can actually provide a basis for evaluation and improving the process as a whole. So Word Diagnostics is today the only one automating and evaluating the whole process. Results to date, early stage, we started selling this autumn. We now have 2 paying clinics in Sweden. One of them are saying that this is perfect and easy to use for them. We have 10 clinics who are qualified for purchase and who are in negotiations and trials with us. One of them is saying that this is the holy grail for mental health care. And we have about 300 prospects that we are working with at the moment. This is the team, and it's a strong combination of business experience and expertise, clinical expertise and experience, and scientific expertise with 2 researchers on the team. We also have a board with experience from digital healthcare in Sweden and in Europe. We're looking for investors with a long-term commitment and long-term engagement who can help us with the next step of internationalization coming from next year, experience from marketing and sales of SaaS solutions, B2B, and especially, of course, into the healthcare sector. And of course, all the skills we didn't know we should ask for at the moment. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah, Liang, I will let you to ask the questions.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite sectors, out of the entrepreneurs that I deal with. Not least because I've been practicing meditation for the past 15 years. So that kind of leads to my question, Thomas and Katarina. If you guys are focused on the analytics and the measurements, if let's say the ultimate goal is to help the people in need, right? I'm refraining from using the word patients because you kind of categorize and stigmatize a lot of things. But let's say if your goal is also to kind of through your measurements to help the folks, so that means you don't want to be stuck in the kind of in the means, because everything you guys are doing is a means to an end, right? So I want to hear from you what your thoughts. I'm sure you had a lot of conversation around it. It's like your thoughts behind, the kind of current digital methods and tools compared to or in combination to all the other things that you think the folks need to be doing. Like, for example, doing more physical exercise, is proven to be extremely important, right? Or going out and actually having a social life is important. And maybe some people say meditation is also very important. So that we're not stuck in, as you guys say, right, the numbers on the left side, you've seen the kind of traditional players trying to digitize the treatment. I want to get your mind, your thoughts on the kind of larger picture of how you are thinking about the treatment, and then, kind of come back to what you exactly measure.
I love your question. Thank you. We've looked a lot into the market of mental health apps and tools. It's quite a crowded market, but they are geared into performance enhancing activities. As you say, with the exercise and reading and meeting friends, they are all building on mental health and improving mental health. We see that the bigger problems actually lie in the healthcare sector, which is why we are focusing our efforts there. And we see already that by doing this in the clinical setting and actually providing tools for better care, we can work our ways backwards and eventually become proactive in supporting people before they end up with actual mental illness. So patients are our target group at the moment, and it's actually one of our unique selling points, because we are CE marked as a medical device, which these performance enhancing apps aren't. But what we do and the quality we do it with makes it possible to actually provide a solution for a much larger audience eventually, and to prevent mental illness altogether.
Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you. We'll move on to Sebastian from Discover.
Hi. So, see.
Yeah, we can see your presentation.
Yeah, great. Last time it did not work, so I was checking. No, sorry, it's jumping. I've always struggled with. Come on. Sorry,
okay.
I don't know why my computer always refuses to showcase in display mode.
It happens.
So I think it's getting there now. Yeah, so Sebastian, founder of Discover, and this is my son Theo. He's 16 years old. He has a muscle wasting disease, and basically through our travel and daily life, we came to realize quite fast how challenging it was for us and our community, basically, to handle daily life and travel the world. And basically, we launched Discover with the mission to enable the world for people with special needs and disabilities. And what we are focusing on is to democratize accessibility data using technology. The problem we try to face is the fact that accessibility data today really hinders having a normal daily life. When it comes to travel, 2/3 of disabled travelers are claiming that they lack information about accessibility before a trip or in their daily life. Almost 2/3 are also declaring that they face physical barriers that they were not aware of. And that's just not fair. The reason why this happens is that basically both in the society in general and in the travel industry, there is no international standard for accessibility. There is legal norms when it comes to buildings and accessibility, but nothing that is international and nothing that is targeting to end users, which makes that even for businesses with the wish to solve accessibility, they do not know really how to handle that. So what we focus on at Discover is to, through our own standard of accessibility, to collect, to verify, and to classify very granular data about accessibility, looking not only at a building in general, saying that a hotel or a shopping mall is accessible, but looking at room level or at floor level with very granular data around the anything for the door width, the toilet, the bathroom, the reception desk, etc. So granularity is key. The reason why we do that, so market size, well, basically over 20% of the population is affected by any kind of disability. And that's a figure that is growing super fast due to the aging population, as you're aware. If we look at the travel industry, where we started from the beginning, I mean, already now that market is huge. It's $70 billion in US and Europe only when it comes to disabled travel. We started in the mobility areas, and we are now launching also to address both visual, hearing impairment, cognitive disease, and allergies. So big market, much bigger than most people think of, and growing fast. We we started our journey as a travel tech startup, and actually one of the first person I pitched to was Boris Goldman when he was on a visit to Stockholm. So I knew you guys, and at that time we were launching as an Airbnb for disabled, but we came to realize through our journey, also a bit pushed by COVID in the last 12 months, to be honest, that our vision was both much broader than travel, but much broader than consumer focus solely. So we started with the marketplace, where now we have over 35,000 classified properties. We managed to reach positive unit economics before COVID and so on. But in the last 12 months, to be honest, what we've been focused on is our B2B offering, which is around what we call our accessibility management program. In a way, quite like the position green work in sustainability, but we do that around accessibility, where and all that is based around our core DNA, which is our expertise and granularity when it comes to accessibility data. So this accessibility management solution that is the focus right now, or until COVID passed by, basically, is focused around 3 verticals, where we help businesses with gathering accessibility data in a very granular way, and we help them to communicate it to their own customers. We help them with accessibility education through workshops and e-learnings, and we can even help them with content creation to position themselves towards the community. But at the center of HandDiscover is really this accessibility data. We grew that data from the beginning through our marketplace, the backend of our marketplace, in a very manual way, you can say. Now we are moving into a more scalable platform called what we call our accessibility management system, where we start to integrate with big players like Oracle and so on. And that will help us basically to have a more corporate interface that helps us scale much faster our data gathering. But it won't solve the fact that at the core of our DNA, we still have the validation of the data, which is the core of HandDiscover. We do not believe in adding data that we have not validated somehow. And at the moment, it's QA, it's our QA team doing that, so quite manual. So what we are starting now is working on our object recognition technology in order to really be able to assess accessibility objects, be able to, even in inside environments, effectively be able to assess width, degrees of a ramp, etc., or everything that has with accessibility to do. And that will be key in order to basically be able to scale to the millions. We have 30,000. We know how to get to the hundreds of thousands, but we want to be able to assess millions of places. And for that, we can't have a manual validation of data. Okay, so
sorry, Sebastian, we need to, yes, please.
Yeah, I speed up. So marketplace, traditional commission model, the accessibility management, a subscription-based model. Okay. So today, the marketplace, I won't talk too much about it. The accessibility management that we just launched, we have now signing the first contracts. We have a pipes of over 8,000 properties that on the line to be signed and assessed by us, both in Sweden and internationally around different verticals like hotels for sure, where we come from, but also now shopping malls, hospitality, sports stadium, airports, and so on. And we are based in Malmö, a team of 15, very international, serial entrepreneurs, and so on. And we are backed by investors like Angels, the Kamprad, the IKEA family founder, Houseat Partners, very specialized travel tech investors. And so far, we've raised over 2.2 million euro across the years. We last year were integrated by the EIC Accelerator, securing a 1.6 million euro grant funding. And through the EIC, we are now securing another 1.5 million euro as part of our coming A round next year that we target to do around 6 to 10 million euro, a bit depending on how attractive we are, where the EIC will be part of the investor. Okay.
Yes.
So if you want to democratize accessibility with us, you know where to join. Contact me.
Yes, Leon, we have time for one question.
Yeah, so Sebastian, this is wonderful. I actually, I have so many questions that I don't even know where to start. I would just commend you for the tremendous value you guys are trying to create. So let's definitely connect offline. I would love to get to know more about what you guys are exactly doing. The time is too short for me to get a granular understanding. But really, congrats on whatever you guys have already achieved. I have no question at this stage.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yes. Yes. Sebastian, would you please unshare, and we will move on to Prudence. Yes, Prudence. Yeah, you can get started.
Perfect. So thank you so much for the time. I'm just gonna try and go back there. Sorry, I can't see my own screen, so I need to minimize that and start. Okay, there we go. So my name is Prudence from Manje, and we're simplifying healthcare by connecting patients to specialist doctors in Africa. In 2010, my mother was diagnosed with a tumor growing close to one of her kidneys. So this was at one of the government hospitals in Zambia, and doctors said they could arrange surgery, but we wanted a second opinion. So I started searching for private hospitals in Lusaka, the capital where I come from, but it was hard. It felt complicated because you have to go around hospital by hospital to try and get information, find out the cost, book an appointment. And then we had friends that suggested we try South Africa, which is a medical destination in Africa. But again, we were not sure we could afford to fly to another country with no assurance that the hospitals we're going to are better than the ones we're living back home. So then when I did more research on this, I discovered that the major problem when it comes to access to healthcare in Africa is that there's no easy way to contact hospitals, book appointments, or even find information. And even though this problem is faced by people that are living in Africa, there's actually another group of Africans that are even further away from these services, and that's Africans in the diaspora, people like myself who are medical sponsors for family members back home. The support that we provide is based on the information that we're told. So I wanted to do something about it. And so together with our team, we're building a solution called Manje. And Manje is a Bantu word or African word. It means now. And really the vision is to simplify healthcare and access to care by connecting African patients to specialist treatment instantly. So the way it works is like booking.com for patients. And our product is a digital platform that connects patients to hospitals and doctors, and also showcase the major medical destinations across the continent. And we do more. We're providing financing information about how patients can actually afford to pay for that kind of treatment. So our core team is made up of myself and my co-founder, Max. We are supported by 2 advisors, a medical doctor and a business advisor, and we work with 3 consultants. I have a background in journalism, and I've worked as a business developer in Sweden. I'm currently a board member at the Swedish East Africa Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also the vice president for the Africa Europe Development Agency. And I have a background from Lund University and also the University of Zambia. And my co-founder, Max, is a Swedish serial entrepreneur. He's highly experienced web and app developer, and he's also the CEO of a tech bureau here in Malmö. And Max has done extensive work with some of the leading global companies in the world. So at this stage, our focus is on the diaspora market. So that's approximately 36 million people globally, 8 million plus in Europe. And every year, Africans in the diaspora spend $48 billion in money that they send back home to support their families with medical bills, among other things. $23 billion is sent from Europe to Africa, and we're targeting 1% of that. So our launch market, for the wider launch, we're looking at the European market. But at this stage, we want to launch our beta version of the platform in the Nordic region, which has about 1 million Africans. And how we make money is we're developing a subscription model to provide priority support to members. And we are also in discussion with several partners. That includes advertisers, but also we're looking at tie-up partnerships with several organizations. At this stage, we charge our customers 200 Swedish krona to access our service. And when it comes to competition, there's 3 players on the African market. But what makes us unique is that we're the first to market with a digital medical ecosystem for Africa that actually connects the whole market, both in terms of geography, but also in what we're offering. And we are also working in a niche market with a focus on chronic disease conditions, because when it comes to healthcare in Africa, much of the focus is on public health, and that's where the funding goes to. But then when you look closer, you realize that Africa is fighting a two-edged sword battle when it comes to healthcare with the emergence of chronic diseases. And WHO actually estimates that Africa will record 28 million deaths from chronic diseases in the next 10 years. So this is a market that we want to support. And what another unique selling point for us is, as one of the founders for Manje, and also being an African woman, my experience and also from my understanding is that when it comes to healthcare in Africa, it is the women of Africa that are the frontline caregivers. So through my experience dealing with chronic diseases with my mother, I sympathize with them. And I think that puts us in a position where we connect with our customers and we're really able to build a solution that fits market needs. So Manje was built on a promising idea that we could simplify healthcare in Africa. So we started off with a massive investigation, and we were investigating and speaking with different key stakeholders in several African countries, ministries of health, government, medical institutions. We're talking to industry, hospitals and patients alike. And when we verified the concept and idea, we built our MVP. And we've been testing that now with 4 hospitals in East Africa. And we just recorded our first patients, 13 paying customers that are using the service. So for the next stage, at this stage, we're really asking for pre-seed funding of 2 million Swedish krona. And we'll use this over a 12 to 18 months runway to launch in the Nordics. And really the focus now is for us to really understand things like our customer acquisition cost, the customer lifetime value, before we can actually go for a wider European launch. And the channels that we're using right now to market Manje and going further is the embassies and the governments, diaspora organizations, many of them that I'm already affiliated to here in Europe, but also medical associations. And we're also starting to leverage social media to just really get the brand and the name out into the market. So thank you so much for your time.
Yes, Leon, do you have any questions?
Hi, Prudence. Thanks for sharing this. Actually, this question could be applied to Sebastian as well, because I realize what you guys are doing are really kind of trying to bring benefits and values for the greater good, right? So there's specific, in Sebastian's case, it's obviously the specific community with handicap or disability, depends on what's the politically correct word in different countries now. And then Prudence, obviously, for the African diaspora. My question, maybe for both of you, is might be slightly stupid, but the fundamental question I'm thinking about is: have you guys thought about the perfect or the optimal format of the organization for what you are building, in a sense that, I think it applies to both Sebastian and Prudence yourself. Like, does it make better sense for you guys to, make this out of, create best value out of a profitable startup? Or does it make better sense for you guys to, create some sort of association so that you can kind of be a distributed or decentralized network, so that you can become, a massively scalable network, so you guys can bring a lot of resource in? And in all honesty, I don't have answers to you, and I would love to have your thoughts behind this, if you see what I mean by my question.
Yes, I can go first, Sebastian, if it's Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so thank you so much, Leon. That's a very a good question. And we have thought about that because when we started, we did like 6 months of extensive research trying to understand exactly where we would fit into this, but also what kind of company to build going forward. So we've explored the nonprofit way, we've explored, and we realized that there is a market. There is customers that actually can afford to pay for the service that or the value that we're creating. But then at this stage, as an early stage startup, we want to test and then start to make iterations. So I think that in the long term, really, this could go into a different direction. But at this stage, based on the data that we have and also talking to patients and talking to different stakeholders, we believe that this is the best starting point for us.
Sounds good. And maybe to close on this one, Prudence, I'd be more than happy to direct you to my colleagues at Partech Africa, who obviously are on the ground, have boots on the ground, and they can probably give you some valuable perspective.
Absolutely. That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, Sebastian, please. Go ahead.
No, so in our case, we are also actually very much like Prudence. We spent quite a lot of time in the beginning trying to define, what was the best setup. But basically we came to realize very soon, as you were talking about how do you see competition, and how startups look at competition. And basically in our field, basically all the actors doing a very serious work and or of the NGO type, and it's great. The problem that we're all facing though is that they cannot scale. They never manage to scale, or they never have any runway. They are dependent on fundings from government or institution here and there, and basically are always stuck with no possibility to scale. So in our case, we had both that in mind, and also the fact that from the very, very beginning, we saw us percentage-wise more as a tech company than as an accessibility or a travel company. So we were very aware that if we are to build something strong, first of all, wish-wise, I'm completely not interested to solve anything for Sweden only, or Europe only. I want to solve it for the world, and with that in mind, I knew that the tech investment required would be in the tens of millions of euro. And therefore, just also from that perspective, basically, going the NGO way was pointless. So,
okay.
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian. We'll move on to Eric, another health tech startup.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen all right? Perfect. Hi, my name is Eric, and I'm the founder of MedBeat. MedBeat has developed the world's first ECG device connected to the Internet of Things. Why is this important? Because this enables us to help around 10% of the world's population. On average, 1 in every 10 people will suffer from an irregular heartbeat, a so-called arrhythmia, at some point in their life. The most common arrhythmia is atrial fibrillation, which right now exists in 2% of the world's population. The most dangerous thing about atrial fibrillation is that it causes blood clotting, which leads to strokes. And it's estimated that around 30% of all strokes are caused by atrial fibrillation. Before I founded MedBeat, I worked as a doctor in the Department of Pediatric Cardiology, where around a quarter to a third of all patients, both children and adults, suffer from arrhythmias. So, how do we diagnose these today? Well, there are already ECG devices, but they either have very low recording quality, very short recording time, or they have to be implanted during surgery. There is no automated IoT solution available on the market today. We've developed a device which records continuously with a high quality. There is no need for surgery, and in just 1 week's time, we collect more ECG data per patient than our competitors do in 55 years. This is how the system works. The device records continuously, and all data is transferred to the cloud, where it can be accessed by the healthcare provider. If the user is able to use a smartphone, they can see their own ECG, and register symptoms in the app. However, this is not mandatory, so someone not able to use a smartphone can still use our device, and all data will be transferred automatically to the cloud. And on the right, we can see the doctor's view, where they can see patient events and also an automated analysis of the whole recording session. And because we collect so much more data than our competitors, we're able to use machine learning on a completely different level. This allows us to give not only ECG data, but also decision support to physicians. And this is where we're at right now. We've developed superior hardware and software compared with the top players in the market. But a really interesting opportunity is also preventive medicine. Within the last few years, studies have shown that using machine learning on ECGs, you can not only diagnose, but also predict arrhythmias. The problem is that it currently takes 20 years of ECG data to predict, for example, atrial fibrillation. We get the same amount of data in just 7 days. So in the near future, we'll be able to tell physicians not only which arrhythmias the patient currently has, but for example, that there's a 90% chance that the patient will develop a stroke within the next year. This creates huge possibilities for not only healthcare, but also insurance companies and large corporations to screen their employees and find out which ones might have a stroke so that this can be prevented. This will save a lot of costs and human suffering, and we believe that this is the future of healthcare. If we take a step back and look at the world market for ECG recording systems, it amounts to around $20 billion per year and is steadily growing at over 5% per year. We have the potential to sell up to 1 million units in this market, which translates into more than $1 billion of recurring revenue each year. We plan to charge a license fee of $650 per device per year. Already, we've had plenty of interest from different hospitals to purchase our product, and we have selected a few clinics for pilot testing. This is where we're at in development. We've developed and validated our prototype. Now we're ready to take it from prototype to finished product. This includes CE and FDA approval, and we estimate to launch at the end of this year. This is our team with experience from both small startups as well as international companies. Michael, for example, our CTO, founded his own medical device startup, which was acquired by Labory in 2017. And this is our board of directors with experience from both national and international medical companies. Now we're looking to take this product to market, and we're seeking $2 million in seed investment, out of which a third is already secured. Thank you very much.
Yes, Liang.
Thank you, Eric. I see that Asia is very high on the addressable market, and I know that there's a lot of people need your products. And one of the key things that one of the key questions that pops up was, since you're doing prediction and analytics, and there's tremendous consequence, right, from your predictions. So how do you tackle false positives?
Right. There are certain standards, both within the medical device industry and then within different regions on how to validate these products and these algorithms, because all products, even a CT scanner, has a certain amount of false positives. But I think the important thing here is also that these problems are usually very treatable. So for example, atrial fibrillation, if you get a 90% risk of developing AFib within a year, the direct consequence of that is not that you need surgery or you need hospitalization, but rather that the physician can keep track of this patient, and you can then screen the patient within the next 6 months or within a year. And once that arrhythmia occurs, you can easily treat it, because the risk is more over years. So the big problem is the undiagnosed arrhythmias, which run a certain percentage risk each year. So if we do get a positive result, there is not like a super big brain surgery going on directly, but rather that we can identify these patients and then treat them before they develop anything serious.
Yeah, thank you, Eric, for the answer. We have one last startup, last but not least, Vincent and Martin. Feel free to share your screen.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Can you see my screen? I'm Martin from Your Speech Factory. We turn business people into better speakers. Did you know that we started our business already before the pandemic? Because we thought it was hard to reach out to people sitting in the same room. And now you're sitting behind your screen, and I should get my energy through that little camera and to get it out on the other side. Because I want to keep you engaged and I want to build trust. And that's not easy. And believe it or not, we've seen a lot of presentations here today, and you all have a routine to prepare for your presentations. Maybe you train your presentation in silence, going through the slides. Maybe you give your presentation to your partner. And if I'd ask you how you feel about preparing for a presentation, you will be perfectly fine with the way you do it today, because you don't know the alternative. I'm thinking about when Henry Ford said, you know, if I would ask people what they wanted, they would say faster horses. A more recent example is 10 years ago, before Uber came, people would stand on the street and go, taxi. Steve Jobs have said it, and many others have said it too. Many times, people don't know what they want until you show them a solution. Our solution is the category of presentation aid, where aid is spelled with AI. Try to imagine when the people in the world realizes that there is a software for them where they can get the help to create, for example, the introduction to their presentation, where they can learn, for example, new skills based on best practice on the world-leading coaching companies, and where they can improve through AI, not only the slides, but also the presentation skills. This is presentation aid. And now you're probably wondering, did we develop this in our garage? The answer is no. We asked Gabrielle. She's a business developer manager at Maersk. And we also asked a couple of other companies. You see them here. Some of them also tried the software. And we realized that there are 5 different pains when it comes to preparing for a presentation. And the pains are, number 1, what to say. Number 2, what about my slides? Number 3, how do I practice? Number 4, how was my meeting? And number 5, how is my progress over time? Just to give you a little bit of a look and feel of the software, this is what we call a training page. And you train with your own slides. We simulate the meeting environment. Basically, your laptop is looking at you through the camera. It's listening to you through the microphone. And we give you feedback based on your presentation skills. We're also very proud to present our main partner, S&P. S&P is a leadership communications company based in San Francisco. As you can see in the left box, they provide us with professional knowledge and input to our software. As you can see in the middle box, they have a creative studio where they produce content and videos to companies like Google, Spotify, and us, Your Speech Factory. In the third box, you see their clients. They have a broad client base, and this is really big. They want to sell our software to their clients. And who are their clients? Well, we talk about maybe 1.5 to 2 million employees working for iconic tech companies. We have the goal to close 9 clients this year. We already closed Trelleborg and Schindler, so there is 7 more to go. And many of the companies that you see in our sales funnel have hundreds of thousands of employees, so it's big corporations. That's our target group. And in 5 years, we will be having 150,000 paying users and 60 million euro revenue. Now we're searching 1 million in the seed round to be able to close the remaining 7 clients for this year and to close another 20 clients next year, which will take us to the Series A round in 2022. We're happy to hear all your questions, so over to you.
Yeah, Liang, please.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. I was just wondering whether you practiced with your speech factor, because I realize we get very good eye communications from your speech. So kudos to that.
Thanks.
But in all seriousness, in all the clients that you've been speaking to, for the ones who haven't converted, what was the biggest reasons for the clients that are currently declining, apart from the ones that are converting, just to understand where you guys are?
So yeah, we were talking about traction before, and we made a pilot in the beginning of 2020 at Novo Nordisk, the pharmaceutical company, in 6 different countries. And based on that feedback, we have developed the product until a few months ago. So when we released the product, the first 2 clients to onboard this year was Schindler in January and Trelleborg in February. So there is no reason to like they don't convert, but they will convert.
It's a process, so it's work in progress at the moment. So it's just to reach out to the clients and onboarding them. So we have a strong interest, as you showed, from all of these clients. We just confirm the needs and the interest in getting on board. It's just we're a small team,
Yeah, and Vincenzo is our co-founder, so we're co-founders.
Yeah, thank you, guys. We have a few more minutes. I'm just wondering, this will be the end of the pitching session. Do you guys have more final questions for Liang? Everybody ask their questions? That's cool. Okay, so Liang, how can the founders get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I think one of the folks in it asked about what is the best way to raise fund. One way is write to me, so I can give you guys my contact. So I'm just going to type in here my email address. For the more adventurous, I'm also leaving my WhatsApp here. So we're in such a email inundated world, so I don't mind using WhatsApp so that things can move fast. So but thank you so much, guys. As I always say when I interact with entrepreneurs, you guys are the ones who are doing the real work. It's really easy for us to point fingers and whatnot. So kudos to everything you have achieved, and I'd be super pleased to be in touch with you guys and learn more, because time was really limited. So look forward to stay in touch with you guys.
Yeah,
likewise.
I hope after the pandemic you will have the time to come visit these entrepreneurs here in Malmö.
Absolutely.
Let's hope for that. Well, thank you so much, guys, for being with us here today. Just one final words, for Martin. What do you think the global investors should be, why they should be paying attention to Skåne region?
No, I feel very proud to work in a region where there's so much creativity and so much strong growing ideas, and so many possibilities also to develop the ideas and actually make competitive international companies from them. I know some of you work with our other branch, our trade branch already. I would recommend you, if you're looking for international markets or reaching European markets, for example, to talk to our trade guys at Invest in Skåne to see what the possibilities are for connecting with the wider market.
Cool. Thank you so much for you guys. We will follow up and I will connect you with, you guys already connected, but Liang has the contact information here. Well, thank you so much for today. If you have any more feedback, just feel free to send me an email. Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Bye.
Bye,
Yeah,
everybody.
bye.
Bye-bye.